soulful shit, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's some soulful shit for everyone, you know what I'm saying? Like, I made this be myself, so hear me. Woo! I mean, like, we can pull that clown shit away. There's some real shit for you. I'm spazzing right now, so listen, let's go. Yeah. It's in their bones, the thugs in harmony for the love of the money. Then fall victim for the cookie, then turn pussy, it's lonely. You said you hold it down when life get rough, we're here now, so show me. We move them losses to them wins. Heavy pounds, we make it ends meet. Converse with only few who make me feel like I be 10 feet.
Feel like I be 10 feet. Big up to your damn selves, guys. We are back in the building with another video, another analysis. God, where is my English? That was poor. Let me start again. Guys, we are back for another analysis video on Barcelona. This time, please make sure you do smash that like button for me, people. Hopefully you've liked the other videos that I have done. This one's probably the one I'm most excited to kind of take a look at. And to be honest, this is even just really more of a base view, simplistic view, of kind of looking at Barcelona, this season, ever since Hansi Flick has obviously taken charge of the team. And obviously everyone knows, listen, I'm a massive Barcelona fan as well. So I'm Barcelona are like, I'm so I'm so entwined. Is that the word I'm looking for? I'm so involved. I feel like entwined is the better word. So that's the word I'm going to go with, right? I'm so entwined with, but entwined sounds a bit weird. It doesn't even matter. Listen, I'm looking at Barcelona's DNA, also, I know Barcelona's DNA, La Masia, tiki-taka football, possession-based football, all of that kind of good stuff. Obviously, we've seen the glory days, under, Pep Guardiola, Johan Cruyff, obviously, way before that. They've had the Frank Rijkaards, they've had the Luis Enriques and people of that kind of ilk. But, Barcelona do have their own kind of significant DNA that, quite a lot of teams have probably tried to replicate over the years, but it just hasn't really, really worked. And ever since Hansi Flick, where we'll start today, ever since he kind of came in, with his style, one of the first things I said when I first saw that he was going to become manager was, I was like, okay, Hansi Flick, German coach, German national team, Bayern Munich, we know what you want. We know what you're about. We know exactly what you're going to be trying to do in terms of you have a distinct style of play yourself, which is that I don't even really want to say it's like a German style, but for the sake of arguments, we'll just call it that. That kind of typical gegenpress, direct football, fast, intense, it's everything is here kind of thing. But there's still a bit of football, of course, because you almost need your technical players to be able to get you out of certain situations, whether it's a Kimmich, a Cruz, an Ozil. In this case, whether it's a Pedri, it's a Xavi, and you need the De Jongs and you need those kind of players, right? But the reality is you are going to be relying on the athleticism really of the entire squad. Now, that's going to leave you open. That will leave you open at times. But against certain teams, I feel like if they were to play against like a Manchester City, I would be intrigued. I would be very, very intrigued. I think they would do well against a Manchester City type of squad just because of the way that they play and they want to play football and this, that, and the other, and they leave quite a lot of space in behind. I feel like Barcelona would just exploit that. But equally, I also think you could exploit them, going the other way, just because, again, they also leave, quite a bit of space, in behind that. And, it's he kind of moved away, from, Xavi and, his style of football. See, Xavi won the league, with Barcelona. So there is obviously always going to be that, which is always a good thing, by the way, the fact that he was able to actually do that, playing that kind of Barcelona-esque, that Barcelona style, this is Xavi is one of the players that when we think about Barcelona, he's one of them. He's one of the players that you think about. So of course, you always knew, especially when I think, where was he, like Qatar or something like that? We always knew that if Xavi was going to come back to Barcelona to manage them, he was going to play that same way. It was always going to be like that because he's going to be someone who understands the DNA of the club. Like, he is literally the DNA of the football club. He is a product of his environment. So of course, if he comes back to said environment, he's going to know how to navigate. He's going to know what to kind of do and stuff like that. So obviously it kind of tailored off towards the end in terms of the performance levels, even the playing style. Almost felt like he was almost trying to, because it wasn't really working. It was like trying to figure it out, and they were, miles behind Real Madrid and all that kind of stuff. And it was like, oh, what do we do? You know what? It's mad. Obviously, it's calm that Hansi Flick is in charge now, but at the same time, had you maybe have waited, maybe got in a Dani Olmo, get the Pedris, the Gavis, the De Jongs, all these players back, what would that have potentially have looked like? Because we saw what it looked like when he won the league. So, but listen, it is what it is, and Xavi knows you manage a team like Barcelona. It's high pressure. It's a lot of pressure over there. I mean, he was a part of that as well, so he would understand. But that's obviously one style. So when I say, in the title and the caption and the thumbnail, whatever, about no more tiki taka, it's not really tiki-taking anymore, to be honest with you. Under Hansi Flick, yes, they've still got elements of that, and obviously when you've got players like this, the new version of MSN, obviously nowhere near as good. Well, I say nowhere near, but then they're not as good. Let's put it, I don't want to say that they're far, like, miles away, but obviously Messi kind of dwarfs all of that. But Lamine Yamal, Robert Lewandowski, and obviously Rafinha, three players who I think are vitally important, to this system. And obviously we'll take a look, at that. Obviously, two of my favorite midfielders in world football, in Pedri and Gavi. Guys, you already know what they're about. But also another player who I think is actually quite important for their team is also De Jong as well. Obviously coming back from injury and all that kind of stuff. And, there's other players too, you still got the likes of Dani Olmo in there as well. You got Casado in there. They've got, Balde, Araujo, Kubasi, who I think is absolutely immense. He's an immense young centre-back. And to be honest with you, the way that he plays, you wouldn't even believe that this guy is actually quite young. Do you know what I mean? He doesn't play like a young centre-back, but I'm very happy that Barcelona do have him. And again, it's just so interesting watching Barcelona. Obviously, we saw the other day, they played against Benfica in the Champions League. They won that game 5-4 after being 4-2 down. It was just, forget about defending, because it was just a calamity of errors and mistakes and poor kind of, defending from both sides, to be honest with you. Obviously, from Benfica perspective, they're probably really cheesed off about, losing that game, especially being 4-2 up, at one stage. But when we take a look at Barcelona, right, and we're looking at, like, the whole style of play and things like that, I think one of the things that interests me is that we all remember Barcelona. And I think it's very important for us to almost take it back a little bit when we do think, about Barcelona, because we have to remember the type of football that they were kind of playing, even under Xavi. But if you want to take it back that far with when Xavi was actually playing as opposed to managing, it was very similar, right? In terms of, it was quite, they would obviously have their width at times, which you guys can obviously see here on your screen. This is obviously from Barcelona this season. But I felt like the difference is that what we're seeing here now, you can see they're kind of set up here. Obviously, they've got I think it's Kubasi. He's got the ball here. They've obviously got it's like a 2-3-2-3 kind of build up, should I say. I don't want to say that's formation, but it's a build up. Obviously, you still got, on paper, it will be seen as I would probably say a 4-3-3 probably, or 4-2-3-1, so to speak. I can't remember what the formation on paper actually was, but it's always good to see. If you look here, you can see that they've obviously got the two at the back with the build up. Obviously, a Kubasi, whoever that is, has obviously got the ball. The two fullbacks are quite high and wide. You can already kind of see that they're, I would say, not too high, but they're pushed up, a lot further. But they're forming a 3. They're forming a 3 as the next line for, the defenders at the back, whether it be Kubasi, whether it be Araujo, whoever it is, right? They're forming that 3 in front of them, but they become quite important, especially Balde, because what Balde is obviously in turn going to do, and obviously you guys can kind of see it here, is you can see on your screens why Balde is going to become important within this, is that if Kubasi's got the ball or Araujo's got the ball, let's say Kubasi, just for the sake of this argument, on the left-hand side, so number 5 on your screens here. If Kubasi has obviously got the ball, obviously simple pass, obviously with the opposition there, you could say you could just pass it to him. He could just pass it there. He could pass it back. He can just keep possession. What they're going to do, though, is they're going to get Rafinha to run on the inside, which then leaves all the space for Balde to be able to run, on that kind of outside. And I think that's so important for Barcelona's kind of style, because then it leaves Balde in those 1v1 situations quite a lot. Now, again, it's then down to your own ability, but then also it then helps because you've still got Rafinha on the inside. So you can go 2v1 in certain situations if Rafinha decides to, make that overlapping run. If the Rafinha decides to stay on the inside, if Rafinha decides to make a cutting inside run, if then Lewandowski, as you guys can kind of see it, already kind of here. If Rafinha's on that side, you can't even see Balde on your screen because he's so far, on that left-hand side. But because he's got all of that space, remember the play is so, I won't say congested, but it's so to one side that the opposition team at this moment in time, I mean, they got 4 at the back there, they've got their kind of 4 in the front there, and then the strikers obviously chilling there. When you've got the 2 extra players obviously chilling in there, they're set up in a way where it's like, okay, we probably at this moment in time don't exactly really mind, so to speak, having someone over there on that side, because technically, if you look at it, just behind Rafinha, you've got the right back who's gonna, in his eyes, oh yeah, I'll just come out to whatever problem though, because if the right back comes out, Rafinha's in space now. What does that then do? Well, Barcelona are very good these days in trying to get the ball forward as quickly as possible. So they do play quite direct. It might even just be a ball straight into Rafinha's feet, or it will go out to Balde. If it's not Rafinha, it will go into Dani Olmo. When it goes into Dani Olmo, that opens up the game. He can then play the 1-2s and, play with, Lamine Yamal on that right-hand side. He'll probably cut in, or he'll play a pass in. Or if there are runners, and usually the runners will either be, when Yamal's got the ball, it'll be obviously Lewandowski, Rafinha, and Dani Olmo. The pass is always on. So there's always space, or that's what they're trying to do, should I say. They're always trying to make space, once their wingers are either, off, on a run, or if the fullbacks have got the ball, that's always going to be the idea. They're always trying to leave them in a bank of space, but then that space opens up extra space, going the other way. And obviously here it just kind of, shows you, just what I was trying to explain is, you can see here, right, even here in this situation, again, I don't even look at the opposition and think, yeah, you guys are not set up properly and blah, blah. I mean, in their heads, they're probably thinking it's not like it's fine because you're not silly, but you're thinking, okay, we can maybe manage this situation. We know they're going to have the ball. Martinez has obviously got the ball here. Casado obviously in the midfield. Again, could be just a simple pass into Casado, but guess what? Casado's going to make that run infield. Once he makes that run infield, Balde's got all of the space there. You can even see the right midfielder is trying to tell that right back, make sure you watch out, for him. The problem that comes with this is that Casado and Pedri in this situation, anyway, they're so smart. Well, obviously through tactics and stuff, and it might be Gavi in there or whoever, but they're so smart in this situation because they want to almost congest that part of the pitch, because Rafinha will just drop in, or Rafinha will make the run. Did you know what I mean? And if Rafinha makes the run, guess what happens? Dani Olmo drops in. Once Dani Olmo drops in, he's in a bank and world of space. Once he's in a world of space, he can either dribble forward, carry the ball a little bit, pass it to the Yamal. And obviously, there's always those 3, Rafinha, Lewandowski, and Yamal will always be making that kind of run. If Lewandowski hasn't obviously dropped off, but he will do either or, in those kind of situations. And I think it's always kind of crazy, when we kind of see it. And even here in this situation, you can see Dani Olmo and Lewandowski, they've obviously dropped deep. Now they've got no striker up front. It's almost a bit like what you see with Liverpool, with like the 4-2-4-ish, or we kind of saw it. I can't remember which game it was where we didn't play with a striker. Obviously, Lewandowski is a striker, and he's just, alongside, Dani Olmo. But guess what? The defensive midfielder for the opposition team, he's absolutely pissed because there's already 4 players in front of him. He's supposed to be the 6 in this position. Almost in his head, he should only have one person to mark, who should probably be Dani Olmo as an example. But because Lewandowski's obviously dropped in, it's created a problem. Either way, he can't mark 2 people at the same time. That's definitely not going to happen. So either Lewandowski's going to get the ball and Dani Olmo's going to be in space, or vice versa. Either way, one of those 2 players, whoever's kind of the 6 in this, the CDM in this position, whoever he's kind of more leaning towards, and he looked like he was kind of in the middle, maybe leaning more towards Dani Olmo, Pedri's just going to play that pass into Lewandowski. Lewandowski, again, becomes important in these kind of phases, because once he drops in, he's allowed the kind of the freedom to be able to say, okay, I've dropped in, Dani Olmo, you're going up front now. You're going to make that darting run, because now I've already dropped deep, which has then obviously drawn another player towards me. And guess what? There's now going to be a space open, because once that space opens, Balde is still going to make this run. Don't think Balde is going to be static. If Balde makes the run on the outside, Rafinha is going to make that run on the inside. All it takes now is Rafinha to go on the inside of, say, the right back and the right-sided centre-back. Balde to make the run on the outside. You've now created space for Lewandowski to play that pass. So again, Lewandowski, obviously, this is just frame by frame, of course. So it might be a little bit difficult to kind of understand it in that kind of sense. But when Lewandowski does receive that ball, he has got options. His options either potentially getting, depends on how fast the ball obviously gets zipped into him. It's either going to get the ball, he's got Rafinha making a run potentially on the inside, or he's got the outside run of Balde. Either way, I've still got runners. And we haven't even spoken about, you know what I mean, Lamine Yamal, you know, potentially getting the ball and, you know, doing whatever it is he needs to do, you know, on that side. And I think even with Lamine Yamal, when I think about it sometimes, I'm like, he's so important to the team as well, because when this guy is isolated with players, yo, it could be very, very problematic. Honestly, it could be very, 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 very problematic, man, because once he becomes isolated with defenders, sometimes it's almost like it's too difficult, you know, for them to be able to kind of handle it, you know, if I'm being totally honest with you. Another kind of phase here is, as I said, you can kind of see you got Martinez. Obviously, he's got the ball now. Again, the options are, and this is why I say Barcelona, they're a lot more direct. The Barcelona of old, in my opinion, what they probably would have done in this situation, because I know what happens next. What they probably would have done is Martinez would either, I can't see Balde in this frame and in this shot, but he's here on the probably above my behind. He's probably in front of my box here on the side, right? Either play it to Balde, just keep the ball, keep possession, or you can play it to Casado. Usually, I'll be a Busquets or De Jong or something like that, comfortable picking up the ball in those kind of areas, and then he'll just pop it into Kabasi into four into Lamine Yamal into Dani Olmo, 1-2, whatever, and then they go right. In this passage of play, what he actually does is he plays that ball into Dani Olmo. Right into Dani Olmo, because here you can see Dani Olmo is in space. And once Dani Olmo is in space, you've got the three runners now. You've got the really two, if we're just thinking about it, just in terms of where he actually is on, you know, in terms of the space of the pitch, because he's got Lamine Yamal on the right, on the outside. He's in free space anyway. So either he goes straight to him, or Lamine Yamal makes that run from out to in, which then he can just play a slide through ball. Or if that ball comes in quick enough and Lewandowski's already on his bike, potentially, that ball just goes into Lewandowski's feet, boom, bam, bim, Bob's your uncle, and then we're kind of good, you know, to go. So again, all of these players become so pivotal to what they're trying to do. Now, that's all the plus signs I kind of looked at when I'm looking at this kind of tactic. The kind of problems, I would say, so to speak, that I kind of, you know, I don't want to say it's too much of an issue, but I definitely would say it can cause a bit of an issue is at times, and as I said, you saw it against Bayern Munich in the Champions League. I've seen it in the La Liga this season. I've seen it against Benfica the other day in the Champions League. The problem is that if that ball gets cut out, the problem you have after that is that you've already committed too many men forward, i.e., whether it's Fort, whether it's Koundé, whether it's Balde, whoever, they're so high up, you have only got the two centre backs. That then leaves space for the opposition if they win the ball back here, if they win those duels, for example, in the middle of the park or whatever. If they then win that, like we saw against Benfica, if you guys remember that game or if you watch that game, once that happens, Barcelona are kind of at 6s and 7s, and then you usually see that it's usually then 1v1 with the keeper. It's usually 1v1 with the defender, or you know, it's a 3v2 situation because they've won the ball back. So yes, it's got its pros, which are quite good, if I'm being totally honest with you. But the negative is that I just don't think that this style of football can work as an overall thing, as opposed to what they were doing before. I felt like you could kind of use that as a blanket, would I say a blanket kind of formation, and it would work 8 times out of 10 almost. You know, obviously, I know this is prime Barca we're talking about, but even under Xavi, I felt like in the season that they won the league, his style of play, you could do that 7. I'll even go up to 7. We'll say 7 times out of 10. I feel like with this style, they're a lot more exciting because they're a lot more direct and they go to goal a lot quicker. They kind of cut out at times. They still can do the tiki-taka stuff, by the way. I'm not trying to say that it's not there at all, but it's definitely not that at the forefront. I don't watch Barcelona and think that at all, if I'm being totally honest with you. I think they're a lot more in the mold of, in my opinion, probably like you would say like a prime Barcelona, a prime Bayern Munich, you know, under Pep Guardiola or something, or even before Pep Guardiola, under 𝐸𝐸𝐻𝐻 as an example, where yes, we've got the footballers who can play the ball, you know, the Thiago Alcantaras and people of that kind of ilk. But guess what? We've got runners. We've got athleticism in the team. We are trying to get the ball from back to front. Hence why Barcelona have scored quite a lot of goals. They make quite a lot of progressive passes forward, you know, because this is what they're actually trying to do, is get from back to front pretty quickly, and will press you from that front. Will make sure we'll press you because they kind of need to, because of the gaps that they've obviously left, you know, in behind them. If they don't win that ball, like I said, and as you saw, literally against the Benfica, against the Bayern Munich, and against various other teams this season alone, it can become problematic. So yeah, like I say, no more tiki-taka for, you know, for Barcelona under Hansi Flick. Not saying it's necessarily a bad thing, not saying it's anything like that. I think this style has still got a bit of time to still kind of develop. I still think they can probably do with a few more, maybe not that many, but maybe might be a couple of positions that they might look at. I'm not 100% sure. Lord knows how long Lewandowski is going to be able to carry on playing, but he looks like he's absolutely fine to keep playing. So if that can last for another season at least, then they can worry about the forward line position. I just think, for me, that style of football, it reminded me of Liverpool purely because when you don't have certain starters in your team, you don't have a style of football that works for everybody. So if Fernan Torres comes in as an example for maybe a Rafinha or Lamine Yamal, you don't get the same effect, in my personal opinion. Not because he's not that good or anything like that. He's like a calm squad player to have. But you miss something, obviously, with Lamine Yamal and obviously a Rafinha in the side. Yeah, that's kind of where I kind of look at it. If Lewandowski's not playing, I'm not saying that they couldn't just go with, I don't know, Dani Olmo up top, for example, in a false nine, or Rafinha potentially there in a false nine, or Victor Fort, whoever. You could, not Victor Fort, Pau Victor, you can go him as well. Yes, you could do that, but you lose something. And then it's almost like the system doesn't look like it's really working. And we've seen that when he's had to make changes, or when Lamine Yamal's been maybe injured or anything like that, you can see automatically the team doesn't look like they're playing as well as they probably should be doing. And I think like that's probably something that, again, he'll just have to, you know, maybe take a look at. And of course, the managers just come this season, just like an Arne Slot, for example, at Liverpool, or Maresca at Chelsea. It's going to take some time until we see the full form, you know, of this style of football. But listen, so far it's been okay. You know, Barcelona doing all right. They're second in the Champions League at this current moment in time. I'm gonna say they've qualified now. I'm sure that's now them in qualification, top 8 already done and dusted. So let's see how it pans out for the rest of the season. Either way, they've slapped up Real Madrid a couple good times as well. So yeah, I mean, it's looking okay. It's looking okay, man. But let me know your thoughts, of course, in the comment section in regards to Barcelona. Let me know what other team you would like for me to take a look at. Peace.